something if you're not even aware you're doing it? You can't, right? You may be surprised to hear that you've actually overcome this before, many times in your life. Let's explore how it's possible with a couple of key supports. I remember playing dodgeball in middle school, and to say that I was playing is pretty generous. I liked to run around, so I was more of a dodger than a thrower. And in those rare times, I'd be in one of the last handful of kids on the court. I'd pick up the ball and give it a go. Seconds after that, I'd hear from our PE teacher, "Nicole, step with your left, throw with your right." I was caught off guard. I didn't even realize I was stepping and throwing on the same side. I didn't understand at the time why that was important. Come to find out, if I'd listened to his coaching advice, I might be here telling you a story about how great I was at dodgeball. A similar thing can happen when you're going through a rough patch. When your friend reaches out and says, "Hey, I've noticed you haven't been around in a while. Are you okay?" They're on the outside, helping you become aware of what's happening, and you realize why you want to stay connected. So in order to change something outside of your awareness, you need another support to turn your attention to it, and you need to know why the change matters. This is the basis for learning. Our brain and body development from the first years of life shapes us into adulthood. We learn the familiarities of caregivers and people around us, the way they look, smell, and feel to be around. Later, we learn social norms and expectations, like who's more likely to succeed, to fail, what a leader looks like. Together, our personal experiences and collective norms guide us as we create our world. Most of the time, we're not even aware of when they're guiding our perception of people, places, and events. This is our unconscious bias. Naturally, when we're forming a first impression, we begin with what's familiar to us and use assumptions or stereotypes to make sense of that person. This happens very quickly. As a human, friend, and doctor of occupational therapy, I know that I have unconscious and implicit biases that shape my perception of the world, and I'm affected by how people perceive me. To better understand this experience, I surveyed 400 adults across the United States and asked, what would someone new be surprised to learn about you? Now, right now, what would your answer be? If you're like one of my respondents, your answer may be that you're an athlete in high school, that you're gay, or you grew up poor. Maybe the surprise would be that you have children or live with chronic pain. Now, why would this be surprising? The majority of those 400 people said, because I don't look the part. And I would have had that answer too. Growing up, the blend of who I am often led me to feel like I was in between two worlds. From ages 6 to 9, one of my favoriteest things was ballet folklorico. And if you haven't seen a performance before, just imagine. Swirls of colors on flowing dresses as your feet are alive with the ground dancing along with brass and strings. I felt amazing moving my body like this. At practice, I would watch and learn all the parts and even wondered when I would also get adorned with pants and a crisp shirt to dance in. I don't remember when the transition happened, but it did. I was confused by other people questioning why I was on the stage, and that began to take over. Years later, in the first days of college, I wanted to sign up with a student group, but I was stuck second guessing. Do I have to explain how I look? What if they don't think I'm Mexican enough? I looked over to the other student groups and wondered if I would fit in with my enoughness. Beyond missing important attributes, unconscious bias can lead to discrimination, harm, and life or death situations. This has been well documented in education, housing, healthcare, and the criminal justice system. Let's tap into public health research to look at the lifespan of a Black American named Jay. Research tells us that from birth, baby Jay has a higher rate of mortality, as does their mother. In school, Jay enjoys playing with their friends, while at the same time, they have a higher likelihood of disciplinary action for their behavior. Later, Jay chooses the ideal career, but depending on how their name sounds on their resume or how they look in their profile picture, they may not even be considered for the position. Now, as an adult, Jay might not receive the necessary and appropriate health care for their diabetes, heart, or kidney conditions. The trauma of racism may make it difficult for them to go out in the world, and the newsreel of police killings is a reminder of it. Jay's life experiences would be further compounded if they were transgender or disabled. Individual and structural bias can lead to discrimination whether we're aware of it or not. The nurses, surgeons, teachers, managers, and friends in Jay's life are all a part of these structures. It's important for you to consider your role. You might have faced discrimination based on your age, gender, race, body shape, or hairstyle. You might have also caused harm. And we are learning and relearning this together. Today, we've turned our attention to this issue and understand what happens if we don't try to make a change. There's hope for where to go from here. We're in a new era for learning what to do about it. We're moving forward after 25 years of psychology research measuring implicit bias, including Project Implicit at Harvard. There have been many more trainings on the subject in workplaces and communities, yet we're challenged by understanding their effectiveness for lasting change. Current exercises often focus on how we think about the issue, but they miss a vital piece of the lived experience. As the founder of the Institute for Sensory Conscious Living, I'm on a lifelong journey to understand how we can heal through the wisdom of our body and the abundance of our senses. My practice has led me to gather studies that have looked at what's happening in the brain and body when it comes to unconscious bias. I've learned that the area in the brain connected to our emotions is active before we're consciously aware of bias happening. In another study, researchers explore this by giving one of two groups a medication to lower their heart rate. Those with a lowered heart rate also scored lower on unconscious bias measures. This suggests that the felt sense inside our bodies can inform our actions when unconscious bias is present. In order to treat others and ourselves the way we want to be treated, we must not only think about changing our unconscious bias, but also feel it in our bodies. The sense that helps us do this is called interoception. It's when you feel your heartbeat, the breath through your lungs, your digesting stomach. There's a link between this interoceptive awareness and managing the emotions that guide how we show up in the world. Fortunately, we can listen to the cues in our body to help us become compassionately aware and promote safety and belonging. I invite you to join me now and practice this. If you're able, clasp your hands together in front of you. Slowly squeeze them tighter and pause. Here, notice the sensations within and between your hands, and if you can, name them yourself. Now open your hands to the sky. Again, notice the sensations within and between your hands. Name them to yourself. Now breathe in and out on purpose. And we're done. If you want to practice later, place a hand on areas where you can feel your heartbeat, stomach, or tension. Take your time and move forward at your own pace. Whether you're at work with a team, caregiving, or moving through your neighborhood, it's imperative to consider the way you feel inside your body, along with the situation, before you take action. What you say and do can make a life-changing difference to those around you. And as I mentioned earlier, we learn best when we have support. So find a buddy, share this with them, and begin the conversation about your experiences, even those times when you were learning because someone didn't look the part. I've learned what dancers can look like, what multiracial white Mexican Chicanas can look like, what non-binary pansexuals can look like, and what bike camping, dog-loving, forever learning professionals can look like. Because I'm here. Each one of us can take an active role in enduring collective change. Noticing and addressing biases with the support of the senses is a necessary shift to do so. Our journey today can be summed up by a reminder gifted to us by the Dalai Lama. When you talk, you are only repeating what you already know. But if you listen, you may learn something new.